Puja, peace and blessings to everyone for joining. Is Asarmat, I don't know if you or either Bastiku or Basbakat, if you can introduce tonight's meeting, the date, the time, the part, and then also I'll change the slide to the chants and you can do the chant, two of you. Is that okay?
Puja, Sarmad is here. I'm not sure if my sound is clear. Are you able to hear me?
Can hear you.
A moment. Puja, greetings. Welcome to Seba Djas KMTTV Television Review Series, commonly known as the Pop-Up Series. Tonight is Monday, 6/22, and this is part 34. Next week, Monday, we will have part 35, and both of these dates are a date change from the previous schedule. So we begin our program with a call and response prayer. And so in a moment, we will share that on the screen. And just to note, tonight, Sebaja will be placing particular focus on some of the submissions that have been made and also application to Ma'at precepts. So we will begin with our call and response in your sacred space with your mics off. And we will begin with chanting and devotion to the soul and the soul sense of wave and ocean, noting that the soul and the sense of wave and ocean are the same and is me. So we'll start with the devotion to the soul and then chanting with identification of the universal soul. Okay. So sitting in your sacred space, we'll allow ourselves to get quiet, and in one moment we will begin. Dua sa un nefer netra. Dua sar abdu. Dua sar nebjeta. Dua sar sutin he. Adorations to Asar, pure existence. Adorations to Asar, innermost essence. Adorations to Asar, Lord of forever. Adorations to Asar, King of eternity. Dua Asar, Dua Asar. Nukasar un nefer netara. Nukasar abdu. Nukasar nebjeta. Nukasar sutens. Hey. This is chanting with identification of the universal soul. With Sa, feeling the bliss, the peace, the serenity, and the love. Nukasar, pure existence. Asar, I am pure existence. Asar, I am innermost essence. Asar, I am Lord of forever. Asar, I am King of eternity. Asar, I am Nuk Pu Asar. Nuk Pu Asar. If we're able to go to the next prayer.
Dja, I think it was those two.
Dua, Seba, Tap.
It's a- One moment. To everyone, peace and blessings. Thank you for joining. We have a lot to get through. How's everyone doing? I still am not able to see chat. And I did want to get back to the submission. So we started last time with aspirant Hannah's. And I may go back to hers too in a different way, but started with hers and showed that, how she expressed like a lot of the opposite, what we call the opposites in the stopgap method. So this stopgap method really has been forged by going through the post. The one we didn't cover all, but pretty much the essence of what has been shared through the submissions by the aspirants has been a kind of hitting on the same, well, or not hitting, utilizing a certain methodology in the teachings for spiritual transformation and spiritual evolution. And we were focused on, Shams Bell had brought up about eating the heart. And, at that point we decided to focus on, I say we, because it's all cumulative, like, your presence here is part of the we. At that time, I guess my personality decided to go ahead, inspired by Asar, to come up with like kind of a methodology that we could apply to kind of get over these hurdles of, of these unconscious mental feeling, thought, um, impressions that lodge in the unconscious mind that come up and, kind of, you know, really assert themselves in the personality, um, to the point that the personality kind of forgets its true nature, even if one is, an advancing aspirant or an advanced aspirant. So how to troubleshoot that. So the stopgap method is the name, like it's like a troubleshooting aspect, but every aspirant has to really come up with their own kind of version of the stopgap methods, because different aspects of the teachings relate to different aspirants and have different impact. So this is not to be taken as it has to be followed. It's sort of like a template, and then you have to adjust it to yourself. So I had shared that once we develop the stopgap, we're going to start applying it to the submission. Um, so we're continuing that path, that practice of applying it to the submissions. And I said with aspirant Hannah last time, it really, how she used the precepts for the opposites really kind of affirm this way that the teachings are cultivated through the Natarian community, in terms of the Kemetic spiritual, mystical spiritual pathway. So we were going to try to do this, and I have like 2 or 3 different things that are open, and that's what was part of the setup, because I don't know why this computer, Seba, it's not opening like Adobe type of files individually. They all have to be linked on the same, they're opening them up like online linked in the same tab, which makes it challenging to change. So these are some of the books that we are using. I'm looking to my other computer screen because soon I'll have to change. Well, let me move it over here. These are some of the books that we're using, and the books have sort of expanded. The Egyptian Proverbs, the Assyrian Resurrection, Math Philosophy, the African Religion, Volume 4, Egyptian Book of the Dead, hieroglyph translations, the Mental Health and Ancient Egyptian Psychology. This one is coming more into focus as well, as we are working through that. The Temple of the Soul also. I'm not going to get to something I wanted to share. So it's going to be probably alternating these next few sessions, like maybe like tonight, going through one of the submissions. Hopefully we get through it. And then the next time we'll go through, and there are some other aspects that I wanted to share with you, that something taken from the Temple of the Soul book. So probably I'll do that next time, because it may take me a little bit to go through the submissions. So maybe the submissions will be every other week until I kind of get the hang of it relative to the stopgap. And then also we're using that document that I created with sort of a compilation using my precepts from the Hieroglyph Translation, Volume 2, and the Mental Health, the negative qualities, the negative qualities that aspirants are wanting to sublimate, as well as the virtuous qualities the aspirant is trying to cultivate from these different sources, but mostly from the Mental Health and the Hieroglyph Translation too. And of course, we still utilizing the Proverbs. So why am I taking so much time with this aspect of the submissions? Developing the framework of self-understanding that is needed to handle life frustrations. Because this is a fundamental understanding of the hierarchy aspect. When I say take this much time with going into the hierarchy aspect, the 2 aspects of the personality, the set aspect, the set disposition, the Heru disposition. The Heru disposition, even though it could be a lower self and a higher self, because it's still happening in time and space, right? And the ideal established Heru, the enlightened Herus, transcend in time and space. still the Heru disposition, I'm linking it to the mystical lineage. So the Heru disposition as a part of the aspirant is just only focused on, I am transcendental consciousness. I am pure consciousness. I am Asar. I am Ra. I am Nebuchadnezzar. Just that pureness of the I am, transcendental Nebuchadnezzar consciousness. That's all that in this framework, that's all that Heru's doing, because you have to be able to, as an aspirant, know that there's an aspect of you that is just pure, it's innocent, unaffected. And nothing that the personality does touches it. And so this is making that affirmation and making it clear in the mind and heart as you go through the teachings. And of course, part of you says, well, but I do so much and I screwed this up and I did this on my own thing, and I have to be honest with myself. And yes, and there's a time and a place for that. And there's a way in the teachings to go ahead and do that. I was going to show it tonight from the Temple of Asar, but I'll show that, I said, next time, that aspect of it, of this, how to have personal accountability, what the teachings say about that, and the process it gives for that. I'm going to show a little bit of that tonight because it is a part of the virtues of the initiate, which Aku shared at last meeting, I believe, the 10 virtues of the initiates: to have faith in oneself, faith in the teachings, faith in the teacher, faith in one's capacity to act with wisdom, all of the threefold faiths. So we want to not mix up the Heru disposition and the Set disposition, the personality that is transient, that has the impurities, that is working to purify. We're being very, even though Herufi, the personality, is mixed up and what we call superimposed. The superimposition means that, so a good example of superimposition is like if you have, say, like an iron, a metal, like a crowbar. Does that even make sense? You all know what that is. New people, old people might, older initiates might, aspirants, but like a piece of iron, right? And you put it in the heat, like how, like, probably Sedna, working with, bending metal and things. You put it in the heat and it becomes malleable. But not only that, it actually becomes like super red. Like it looks like it takes on the role of the fire. And actually you could take that metal piece that is red hot from being in the fire and you can start a fire with it. So it looks like iron, this piece of iron can start a fire. But if I give you just a regular piece of metal and I said, hey, here, go start a fire, you look at me like I'm crazy. Of course I can't start a fire with that. But in this superimposition, funny things happen with the mix-up, and that's the Harifi personality. Same, likewise, if I gave you some fire, all right, if I light a candle fire and I said, or something outside, and I said, hey, go bend this fire, make this fire bend, make the fire like be malleable. Like I want it to like make a curve, make like a C shape. You'd say like, Seba, how am I going to make the fire bend? But if the fire is on this piece of metal, right, and the metal bends, then all of a sudden it looks like the fire is bending too. So this Harifi personality, when they come together, they get the superimposition type of aspect takes hold. And so Haru goes around thinking, oh, I've done wrong. I've done all these bad deeds. And then the Set personality goes around going, yeah, Haru, you've done some bad deeds. Like, I am Asar. I am seated on the throne, and so there's this mix up and confusion. And we talked, one of the aspirants had asked, like, well, if we start to affirm, I am Asar, I am innocent, I have not, like the 42 declarations of innocence, the 42 precepts, if I say those things, am I not being like hypocritical as I know my personality doesn't follow those? And it's like, no, not being hypocritical. You're practicing the mystical teachings. Hypocriticalness comes in if you stop practicing the teachings and you go around thinking like, oh, my personality, my unenlightened personality is a SAR, and I'm enlightened because I just have this, understanding of my true nature, but you haven't actually experienced it. You haven't had the mystical experience. So that's where the problem comes in. So as long as you continue on with Canoe Nefer, ongoing studies with a teacher that you trust and you have faith in, then that those interactions will help you to know when you have really attained, help you to evaluate that. So I'll come back to that. So the stopgap technique has evolved going through your submissions in line with the teachings over all the years, through all the books. It's the same kind of framework that's given. We can see how aspirant Hiromakit, I went to his framework. I was going to present that today, but I decided to do this one instead. And basically, it's the framework for the stopgap method, what aspirant Hannah presented there. So it's basically what the instructions have been over the years to work through, and especially the new book, the Ancient Egyptian Psychology. But what I'm having done here, the focus of this specifically is discerning yourself, differentiating yourself internally and externally. From, when I say externally, in other words, others will be able to recognize you as being a different personality. They'll wonder like, oh, what's going on with that person, in a positive way. And internally, you will have more calmness, more gurish. Gur means serenity, more of a gurish nature, more of a serene-ish nature. So this application is for a specific focus on cultivating the ego personality to become a receptive, purified vehicle that allows the flow of spiritual virtues from its source, Asar, the soul, the abneter. That's within your own very heart center, where Sage Minimum would place it. Within your own heart center of your personality. And that's what we call the upper, right? We talked about the upper, your resources, the little backpack that we see on Asar, and that we talked about that quite a few presentations ago. So you refer to go back there and look at that if you are not familiar with it. So the personality does not become an obstacle to knowing the Lord of Ma'at, spiritual values, Asar, the abneter. All right, the personality has the RU. And if it's too dense, then, it becomes an obstacle for your being able to recognize, discover, realize your own deeper essence, which is the goal of spiritual practice. So this is a thinning out of the RU by adopting this cultivation process in the personality and making it a vehicle for the flow of these virtues. And so I want to establish here that we're saying the spiritual virtues, the source is the soul. So this is not just a practice of just like, I'm going to pull, and I went through this like early on with my own mystic art with the virtues, and I'll show you it. And you may or may not remember, I was trying to say that if you try doing spiritual virtues from the personality level only, you're trying to pull them in. And that's what most people who are not in the mystical path and don't realize this is an innate aspect of their very being, then when you're practicing, when you're going through a difficult thing, you get in resiliency, you get in finding strength within yourself. It's very limited. It still comes from the same source, but if you don't realize you have a huge reservoir of it, it comes in a limited way to just get you through that experience. And then another challenge comes, and then you got to find that strength again. You got to find that resiliency to get through it, and you get a little bit of it, and then you get into the personality, you stop the flow, and then you go on with your life. And then another challenge comes, and then each time it's like that, versus discovering the source of all the virtues. So the spiritual virtues are there as your foundation. So you are always able to cultivate and move through challenges with your spiritual resilience, your spiritual strength, your spiritual valor. Your Nect, spiritual strength, Kent, spiritual valor. Highly, those two words are very big, especially in the Temple of Asar. And in all the other temples, the Neteru and the temples in Kemet are always like, I'm giving you Nect, I'm giving you Kent, I'm giving you Nect, I'm giving you Kent. What is it giving you? It's giving you that they are aspects of the soul. They are different principles of your soul nature. And that's what they emanate into your personality. If the flow is cleared, it's not obstructed. If it's like not like a cataract type of effect, like, from Aswan, there's so many big rocks and obstacles obstructing the flow of the Nile. So you want those big obstacles to be removed to get that smooth flow from your soul. So we're applying the stopgap to aspirant Sarah submission. So before I do that, setting up the foundation of what I was just sharing, Bas Ku and Bas Baket had a presentation to do this weekend, and in communicating with them about it, they reminded me of this wonderful panel that Basaku really likes, and perhaps at some later time she and or Stomia will share more about it. So Asar, but this panel is found in the Temple of Asar. There's a different one I was referencing earlier, Initiatic Stop number 14. And what I'm not getting into it in any detail. It's found in the Temple of Asar, the Temple of Asar, the Temple of the Soul book, which I showed this book here, Temple of the Soul. Initiation to the Temple of Osiris at Abydos by Seba Dr. Mulata Ashby. So it's what's called Initiatic Stop 14. So you should be able to find it by that reference. And here you see that the royal personality, the initiate, is offering a ma'at to Asar. And of course, when we say Asar, we're talking about Aset and Heru. That's implied. And what it says underneath here is that Derab Ma'at and Neb Ma'at. The offering of Ma'at is given to the Lord of Ma'at. Who's the Lord of Ma'at? Asar is the Lord of Ma'at. Implicit again, Aset, Nebahat. So Asar, the soul, is also the Lord of virtue. We can think of it as the Ma'at precepts. We can think of it as all virtue, all virtuous qualities. So resonating on that, I created this mystic AI art here. And let me see if I can blow it up a little bit. To give that idea, Asar, soul, Abneter, right? Abneter, the divinity of the heart. That's what Sage Memukli calls it. And it's within your heart, and within your spiritual mystic heart, the unconscious mind. And in that heart, Asar, the soul, is within a shrine. The Abneter is within a shrine. And we know the soul has no attributes in essence. Yet, so I use it as the fragrance of the soul. When the soul expresses through the personality, this is how the personality. These are the words. This is how the personality, the mind, will embody that expression of the soul nature. This is when the soul nature is flowing through the personality, depending on the vibration of that flow or what it is. The mind will put words to it. And words like the virtues: truth, justice, compassion, wisdom, integrity, discipline, strength, courage, patience, humility, gratitude, renewal, abundance, clarity, protection, healing, faith, and not harmony, balance, not just limited to these. So all of this is that idea when we talk about Imba Paneter, the immanence of the divine presence, being in the presence of the divine here now. Take a breath into that. You are taking that breath into all the virtues that express as the nature of that soul. So that's where the virtues come from. They come from inner out, and then if the personality is cleansed, they'll flow through the personality, and we call that a sage when that happens, that personality. This is what I had shown you way back, given that imagery, the same imagery that your Nebuchadnezzar nature, which we know is Sara Nebuchadnezzar, right? One and the same. These are as if attributes, right? In even though we know it's transcendental, it's experienced through the personality of the sages, the enlightened sages. When it flows through the personality, these are the words that it's described as: serenity, mystic valor, mystic strength, mystic equanimity, mystic abiding love, abiding peace, tab, mer, assured bliss, all of that. I won't go into that. So focus will be, these are the 10 virtues of the initiates that Vastu had presented. And the ones I'm going to focus on for tonight is have faith in your master's ability to lead you along the path of truth. And master's here is neither male nor female. It's like, your teacher's ability, your preceptor's ability. And really it refers back not only just whoever is a current teacher or preceptor, it refers to the whole lineage of sages whose work serves as a foundation for the teachings that are given. So it's definitely sage a minimum, and have faith in your own ability to accept the truth, have faith in your own ability to act with wisdom. So I'll show the images next week from the Temple of Asar that relate to these precepts. But here, these are virtues, and these virtues are coming from who? Neb Mat, a lord of Mat, a lord of virtues. And that you, at some point, don't have to worry about feeling that you don't have the capacity to self-correct, that you don't have the sensitivity to act with wisdom, that you have to, I can't say I am Asar. I can't say I am Haru, Asar, Ra, Nebuchadnezzar, because I know I just did something that was Anmat just a few moments ago. That knowing that you just did something that was Anmat a few minutes ago, that's the conscience. That's your 42 judges that are part of your metaphysical makeup, your metaphysical, mystical, spiritual makeup, that alert you when something is off. You feel uncomfortable. You feel like, I don't know, I feel funny. What's wrong? And if you become more a sensitive spiritual aspirant, you learn to look within for that, to see like what is off balance, what's out of what happened. And it's just a nudge within you for you to do what it is you say you want to do, which is become aligned to your spiritual nature, to make that correction. So this is a scene from the judgment, with the famous judgment scene. And I'm not going to go in all of it, but just to share that in the judgment scene, this is like the Hall of Mat. It's called Hall of Mati. And they're not 42 here. It's a longer papyrus, as I recall. But you have the Netru there, the various cosmic principles, and you have 42 of them, and each one of them presides over one of the 42 precepts. So when you break that precept within yourself, when you go against your own inner soul nature by acting against the precept, by seha, by turning away from the soul, by turning away from the precept, a little internal alarm goes off. We may call it guilt, we may call it shame, we may call it the feeling of discomfort, whatever it is, just a inner alarm goes off. And as you are going along the path of truth, you will be notified, and you'll become more sensitive to be notified. And if you're not notified from the outside, because sometimes RU is like that, it's like a little blind spot, then somebody from the outside will usually notify you, a family member, a fellow center sentee, your spiritual teacher, somebody will usually, the teachings notify you, all of that. So this is why you need to have the faith in yourself and not feel like you're being hypocritical. You know, the four deity judges and your inner ethical conscience, your ethical conscience. You know, when you act in opposition, is experienced through the mind is guilt. And, you know, guilt is a word we put in it, but it's just like feeling sensations of discomfort in the physical body and also in the mind. Like you can feel like certain pressures, you know. So, you know, have you noticed that within yourself? Have you, and if not, this is something to be aware of. Like when things feel a little funny, like where do you feel it? Like if you did something that you weren't supposed to, you didn't want yourself to do because it's against, you know, the spiritual values, you know, where do you feel it? Does your body alert you? Does your mind alert you? Do you feel pressure in somewhere? What happens? So this is where you have to kind of personalize the teachings in a little bit to your personality and how it responds, how it alerts you. Because sometimes the alert, if it goes off and you feel uncomfortable, you can create another RU with it by feeling so uncomfortable that you run to go watch, to distract yourself. You go to run to watch TV, you call somebody, you run to talk, you do some activity to distract yourself from the discomfort because it feels like so annoying or whatever it is. You can't deal with it. You want to, like, you know, and you don't know where it's coming from or why it's go there. And it's, you don't, are not familiar with your alert system. Okay, with that, any questions there before we go ahead? Did that resonate? Did it make sense? Did it not make sense? Do you buy it? Do you not buy it? Um, for this class, I'll ask Shams Howard, I'll ask if you could turn off the camera. I know the other class, it's the other class, it's a command. Just because I have a, yeah, so I have a lot of images and I don't want them to be associated with anyone when I start reading the submission to so this is a rough aspect of the stopgap mechanism, and I won't go into it in detail tonight. And then we have this document that we're using, which is the Mount Precepts as Opposites for Sublimating Negative Egoistic RU Qualities, the Mystical Spirituality Framework, Psycho-Spiritual Qualities, their Opposites and Mott Correlations reference document. It references the Mental Health book by Seba, Dr. Muwata Ashby, and it references the Hieroglyph Translations, Volume 2 by Seba, Dr. Muwata Ashby. So when I should use aspects of the document, that's where it's coming from. So this is like the document here, and I did cut and paste individual references to each of the negative RU, the ones that I'm referring to. So this is just our opening. You know, the stop, the S is stop, say hi. It could also be stop Shem, right? So I didn't include that here, but it could be stop Shem. If we think in terms of Sage Moped, Shems mean the heated personality, the heat, which is the dull mind and the agitated mind, related to that Shem personality. That's what Sage Moped refers to it. So it could be stop Shem as well too. Stop Shem that leads to Seha, the Shem that makes you turn away from your own true essence, from your own heart. Stop rejecting the divinity in the heart through your actions, your thoughts, feelings, words, deeds, emotions, right? Stop eating your heart out, or any of the other precepts. So the negative RU quality would be when these RU come out of the personality, when they're being activated, when they're being triggered, right? It comes out like as a impulsive urge, like there's no consideration. It just like, it's actually, part of it is like an unconscious process, like an automatic process. It just comes up to because there's some perception of threat or uh, uh, like need for protecting oneself, from an instinctive aspect of the personality, the instinctive nature. And so it comes out with a force. And so the negative RE quality would be, that impulsive, inconsiderate acts that one engages in when there is seha, when one is turned away, one is rejecting the divine in the heart, one is engaging in Shem. So the mod precept teaching correlation would be precept 30 from the hieroglyph translations. I have not allowed my mind to think hurriedly and develop ideas and desires without considering ethics and facts with due diligence, thereby making impetuous and erroneous, fateful decisions in life. Right? So the mod teachings related to self-control and right action would apply here. So this is the seha aspect, the turning away aspect. And the stopgap is like to stop doing that. So the virtuous RU opposite would be deliberate, conscious action, not allowing this automated aspect to impulse to come up, but somehow interrupt that pattern. Shishesh, Shesh Mao. So Bas Aku is going to be checking these aspects, the Kemetic words for me, because I have not double checked them, which is why I have not posted it as yet. Which is why I have not posted it so that you all can have access to it, because I haven't double checked the Kemetic words that it's referencing with the books. So the reflective affirmation for the aspirant: I pause before acting. I consult wisdom and ethics before committing to a course of action. I apply force and effort to steer away from what is harmful. My actions arise from conscious volition guided by wisdom teaching, steering my boat, the boat of my life, deliberately away from what causes suffering. Right? That's very beautiful, right? And so when the seha comes up, of course, it comes up as an urge. The stopgap method is to just be able to have like a short version of all of this to apply in that moment, because like when the RU is expressing itself in a very fulminant way, one of the things that happens is that in the body, in the brain, the actual brain, the part of the brain that relates to the higher cognition and connection to spirit and the God centers and impulse control and all the wiring that comes from the mind, the energy flows from the mind, the thoughts flow from the mind, but when it flows into the brain, to be able to distribute to the physical body, to put the brake on the mouth, put the brake on the hands, put the brake, the organs of action, that those get kind of shut off. So it makes it difficult and challenging. So you've been studying the teachings, you have the capacities, you have the teachings, you have the understanding. So you have to develop a system to actually interrupt your own pattern. And again, the stopgap method is a suggestion, and some of you indicated you've used aspects of it and found it helpful. And if not, then you cultivate your own. You know you best. you know your RU best more than others do know your RU. So I'm going to change slides here now. And we'll start. I don't know if Sarah's on, if he's able to read. If not, somebody can read for him. Let's see if I can. figure it out.
Djas able to.
Djas.
I can read.
Okay, let me see if I can make it a little bit. Okay. You can go ahead if you can see it. Djas, if you're reading, your mic is off. We're not able to hear you anymore.
Pooja, it looks like he's spooling.
Oh, okay. Maybe he lost the connection. Anyone has any comments or questions or anything?
Pooja Seba, well, we're waiting for him a moment. The correlations are very nefer in drawing between the precepts and, the whole stopgap method. And I appreciate, the idea of applying things that may be, unique to one's personality, given, one's own REU, just sort of the some of the flexibility that offers. But it's very never to see the relationships to the precepts. So dua for you for that. It's up.
Heads up. Is he back on?
And it still looks like he's spooling.
Okay. So
Willing
if we
to
can have if we can have somebody start to read, because after this run through, it'll be read through again, like with the comments.
Yeah, I'll read.
Dua.
Submission from aspirant Sarah.
Uja, if he comes back on a Sarmat, you can let us know, and then if he wants to continue to read, that would be fine. Okay, go ahead, Shamshawar.
There are many references in the African religion tradition examining spiritual frustration. One is chosen to sharpen and illuminate a few verses of scripture. The literature, part 1, the movement of creation, and the concept of Pa'uti, especially highlighting the myth segments of Asar Set, and Nebuchadnezzar, and culminating with Anpu. These teachings offer neophytes, shims, and others a mystical perspective of the role and nature of frustration, but also how an aspirant is meant to transcend frustration to the point of dissolution. Frustration has manifested during my spiritual journey in a number of ways.
He has returned.
Okay. Aspirant Sarah, do you want to take over the reading? Shams Howard was reading for you.
It looks unstable on Seba. It looks like as soon as he tries. So we'll continue. It's up.
Okay. Shams Howard, then please continue.
Frustration has manifested during my spiritual journey in a number of ways, primarily from a society which has systems in time and space, which suggests spirituality would seek to stack power, where things, riches, and wealth determine success without regards for how wealth or riches are obtained. Frustration has been the result of sects seeking to amass power and influence through numbers. The implication that as a result of our numbers and ceilings, we're better. From a more refined perspective, the application of the teaching Finding the right spiritual balance has been frustrating. Being a student, as to say, being guided by the teachings, developing the mind that makes one's thoughts and actions seamless, still being sufficiently assertive that one is productive in spiritual development. Simply put, one may divide doubt and uncertainty and grasp the essence of the ancient sage's wisdom. The struggle to simply grasp a thought, righteous actions formed when knowledge is available on time, are frustrating. That point has proven pertinent as thoughts have often been elusive. And aspirant sources of frustrations are many, but the struggle, the aim is the attainment of the seamless Ampu mind. In spiritual growth, frustration is the emotional response of annoyance, disappointment, or anger stemming from an inability to achieve one's spiritual desires or goals, or from encountering significant roadblocks to progress. The Webster Dictionary of Spiritual Frustration. The sages of ancient Egypt first placed the pedestal upon which to build the teaching. From Geb and Nut arise a sign of Set and Neverhat. A sign of Set represent the epitome, the epitome of human existence, tree of life. In the view of the myth, the Sar is seen as the soul of creation, a reflection of divine consciousness. A Set represents institutional knowledge, the wisdom which transcends time and space and is united with the soul. The myth states Set and Neverhead represent the lower nature of every human being. Set is the egoistic will of a human being, selfish, greedy, impulsive, and full of desires for sensual pleasures. That none of these characteristics will lead to enlightenment. The desire to find fulfillment, there is a source of frustration. Therefore, Set is that aspect of a human being prone to becoming involved with and exacerbating the desires and egoistic tendencies of the mind. When this occurs, a human being does not see things clearly and becomes enslaved by his or her own desires, feelings, emotions, and attachments for worldly objects and experiences. This is known as spiritual ignorance or bondage to the world of time and space. Neverhat represents mortality and all that is transient in human existence. She is physical nature itself, which transforms itself constantly, bringing forth life only to see it die and be born again. Nevertheless, is the quality of devotion in all life which is expressed in its highest degree through the emotion of love. Neverhat loves Asar, that is to say, she is devoted to him and wants to mate with him. Then the purest thoughts, perhaps, ever enshrined in scripture, the myth states. In other words, mortality desires immortality, the freedom of the soul. When she mates with Asar, they bring forth Ampu, who represents right discernment. Therefore, upon discovering Ampu, consciousness no longer does a person, when discovering Ampu consciousness, no longer does a person desire worldly things for their own sake. No longer does a person care and think about the body, mortality, and infinite existence, principle of Nevertheless, but they now turn towards what is true in life. The aspiring unaware and lacking life's true code of conduct is never prepared. The ones and zeros, so to speak, are aligned with Ma'at. The Ampu mind is vigilant, discriminating, and ever watchful, mindful over the ego self. The development of mental clarity, sanity, which unfolds in the human heart in degrees. Each thought, each action weighed for the purpose is devotion to the higher self. Never that is a reflection of a set. Lady of the house, implying mortality of physical human existence, which exists in creation, which is also time and space, whereas the set represents the subtle spirit realm, which transcends mortality, the myth proclaims. Subtle spirit and dense physicality, reflections of each other, both down to a star, both drawn to immortality, drawn to spirit. Anpu is the offspring of the spirit, a star, and pure physical mortal nature, never that. The Anpu mind is the discerning, pure mind, able to tell right from wrong, truth from untruth, reality from unreality. The Anpu mind is a purified mind, a prepared mind, prepared for spiritual unfoldment. The next or dual component of Anpu is Anpuat. That mind succeeds a discerning, vigilant mind, a mind prepared for peace. The scripture above speaks to mortality's desire for immortality, the Satian nature's inability to chart the course, and the desire to find fulfillment from base desires, a source of frustration, but also the process to peace through vigilance, discernment, and mindfulness, Ampu mind. One is able to shape the upward trajectory, transcending grosser base existence. Spiritual discipline required for spiritual unfoldment, cultivating one's I'm not sure how to pronounce that, nature, the hidden, forgotten way, separate from frustration. Bullet, the Kemetic tree of life. Bullet 2, part 1, the movement of creation and the concept of Pauti. Bullet 3, pages 195 through 199.
Dua.
Hotel.
Let's have Dua. So what I will do is that I'm going to go read through it and just highlight some aspects that stood out, relating it to the stopgap. And then I'm laughing because not so easy to do in this computer. And then, because I'll have to change. I'm missing something here. Or is it in another one? Must have closed it or something. Okay. And then I'll have me.
Can I get a question in before you proceed?
Go ahead.
Okay. So on the stopgap method, when you do the Seha version, and you turn towards the imminent,
Uh-huh.
that to me means that you turn, you go inside of yourself. So you had mentioned that the soul didn't have any particular quality, but qualities flow through the soul. And so, and I think at that point on the slides that you put out earlier, that is where you made a note to reflect the love that you see. You mentioned fragrance, and then you talk about reflecting that through love in your face, your body, your actions, and that sort of thing. So is that the same thing as the or is it too early for that to happen? Do you have to go down to the abnetta before that actually happens? Is that those qualities beginning to flow at that point, at
So
stage 2?
so like really only like there's, even though it's put in stages, um it's because it's like everything is happening really in the moment, especially because when an RU's coming up, things are happening like so rapidly, the urge, the impulse. So you have to really be quick to kind of notice that, oh my goodness, like, this stone is about to roll down the hill of RU. It's like once it starts rolling, then, it gains momentum. Like, so let me stop it before it, goes over the precipice. So if it's anytime you are become aware that that there's a turning away from what, and it happens, like it could be a mental awareness, could be a physical in the body awareness, it could be just a sense you get, like, I've been here before, I know, whatever it is. But the moment you do that, that you recognize that you are turning away, in that moment you are aligned back to your spirit. And we were talking here like in a disciplinary way, right? When Seba talks a lot, he's talking about like the real deal thing. Remember, we were talking about a specific, when I say real deal, the act, actually attaining enlightenment. Not stopping until you get that and know the difference between that, the disciplinary or the cognitive, as we call it, and the actual experience. Here, we are at a different phase of spiritual evolution, or a different stage of cultivation. Here we're concerned with turning away from that. We're concerned with dispassion and detachment from the world. Here, really not from the world, but the mystical values of the world that we get caught up in. We heat up our personalities. So here, this phase is more like, yeah, I'm not that set personality. Like, that's not the real me. So it's a pulling back from that. It's a coming into the awareness that there's something separate from me, from unaffected, and how it happens and which way it happens is really sort of, this is conceptual. How it's going to happen in like your experience, it's going to be depending on the circumstance, the moment, the situation. If you have more time, if you have to react quickly, if somebody's standing before you, or if this is something that you're experiencing when you're reflecting and thinking about a situation that happened, all of that. So there's no really, there's kind of a template, but I myself, and maybe you're asking this question because maybe you've even seen me kind of alter the template or say things a little different here and there, because it can happen either way. Um, uh, it could happen, but I put it in these different stages to kind of make it maybe even like more of a template for like a more of a reflective, after the effect, after the initial stopgap application, then you could actually or a preemptive. Sibama used the word preemptive in a EM1 class a long time ago, and I still have like a whole presentation I developed based on his presentation that time. Like, you could do it preemptively. So if you know, like, you know this pattern, with this person that happens this way, how do you want to stop it? How do you want, and you can do it in that step-by-step fashion. So the seha, I turn away from it. I recognize, like, I feel in myself that I'm going to get into the fight with this person, or I'm going to say something that I don't want to say. I'm going to act in some way I don't want to act, in this situation. So what am I going to do to turn, that if I'm falling into that turning away, what can I do to bring myself back? Okay, so I'm going to take a breath, connect to Sema. I haven't used Sema a lot, but the lungs, the trachea, Sema, union. I'm going to unite with my imbanetter. This is all metaphorical language. Seba has talked about, how we don't unite with anything, but this is in this phase, we're trying to break away from the pull of the amystical world that we have given ourselves to and been a part of the virtues of it. And we are trying to separate from our personality that has been conditioned by that world, and pay more attention to our soul nature. So we turn immanetter. We can take a breath, because the breath in itself has so many physical and metaphysical aspects. Relates to Sema, as I said. And the lungs are right around the heart, so relates to that connection to the imbanetter. It calms the nervous system. It relates to Shu, Aku nature. The Aku nature triggers that. So many aspects. And then we turned away, we've imbanetter, imbapanetter. And then to get out of this process, we've already turned to our soul. We haven't entered the shrine as yet, but it's like, we realize what, because I'm getting mad. What are you getting? I'm getting frustrated. I'm getting mad. I'm getting angry. I'm getting sad. I'm getting dejected. I'm getting whatever you're saying the personality is getting, like that. You can recognize it. Like, what is this? What is going on here? I find my personality's getting mad. I find this is happening to my personality. Then what's the opposite virtue? Now, it could just be, I think it was Aspirant Hiramaki, it was kind of suggesting, the way his framework worked, what he would put, like he would just say Shem rather than, and that's a good idea. Because sometimes the mind won't let you think that could be another source of panic and argue. Well, what am I going to name this emotion or thought or feeling? And what is the opposite of it? So you could just do what Sage was oh, Shem is coming on, the heat's coming on, heat's coming out, and Gur. I'm just gonna Gur. Opposite Gur. So Shem and Gur works very well. These are not the Gur is not the ideal of the Gur that relates to the actual enlightenment state, but we can call it a Gurishness, a serenity, a sense of serenity. Because we're cultivating. It's not going to be like a really great serenity as it might be in 1 or 2 or 3 years from now, but we're cultivating, we're starting this process. So we might say okay, switch from Shem to Gur, opposite. Gur, okay, done my opposite, which means I've observed myself. I've given a name to it, psychological, that has a whole bunch of processes it does in the physical body, bringing the physical components of the brain online that can actually put some impulse control to the hands and the mouth and the organs of action. So that happens. So then you observe, and then you you come up with the opposite, and then now you can open up your shrine. You can open up the shrine. You've come up with kind of the opposite as it flowed through your personality. So you're pushing the personality to actually cultivate. It means the personality is seeking to find that opposite. To do that, it's acknowledging that it's the deeper essence. And then once it has that, then it goes into the shrine and it actually can sit as a sar and can sit as that essence. Whatever the gur or the equanimity or the peace or the bliss or the whatever it is, we're going to do this one. You can just sit there as a sar with that emanation of the personality. That's like your second, it's like the power of a sar. And you can sit in that and just allow it, what you're saying, to feel it, sigh it, understand with feeling, just feel it in every part. It's percolating throughout every aspect of the personality. it's flowing from your inner essence, flowing outward. Every aspect, like you're in a pressure cooker and you're just getting soft, and just the way like you put hard beans in the pressure cooker and then it gets, you know, soft and the steam seeps into them. And then you can actually, so to be able to, like as if become that person, that specific opposite that you're focusing on. You know, what does it feel like in the body, in the mind, and the, like, how, you know, what does it do to your physical, your face, your hands, your, all of that. So then, you know, you abide in that, and that's like your peaceful, the peace, you're abiding peace. So that's like the stop part of it. And then the gur part of it is like, after this, and you can stay in your shrine and do the gur, or again, you're visualizing being in a shrine, so you can either continue to stay in your shrine and do some of the reflections, or that could be like an after you finish this, you feel peaceful. Now you're gonna start to turn your mind, like, well, how am I going to handle this situation? You know, what happened here? Like, why did I react that way? You're going to go into reflection, so you can journal for that. That's one way to do it. Any sort of reflection, you can talk to someone, you talk to a counselor, you talk to a teacher, however you want to work through that. Does that help a little bit?
No, no.
So we'll go through it. Okay, we'll go through it here a little bit. And I know we're coming on time, but we will make a movement to get through at least part of this. So the first part here, there are many references in the African religions. Aspirant Sarah cites the creation myth, the movement of creation, the creation myth, and then also the Asarian theology, the Asarian myth. So that, I would say, that suggests a conceptual framework for himself. So that may be his conceptual framework, to actually find, through that framework, to be able to work through the frustrations that are encountered. How do they do it in the midst? What do these characters, how do they relate the teaching? So that would be something for the personality to look at. I'm just laughing because I have to switch from, give me one moment. Let me see if I can do this, if I can find the other one that I had. Nope, that's not it. That's not it. Okay, I think I was able to pull that up, so hopefully switching to it will be easy. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this, which I really wanted to go this and then switch to the entries, but maybe that might not be so easily. So here is a discussion on frustration for, you know, that person, for the personality, and this is very good. Identifying the Seha Shem primary trigger. As a matter of fact, he says that frustration is manifested during my spiritual journey in a number of ways, primarily from a society which has systems. So this is excellent to know the one's trigger. This is like that's like half the battle right there. Because then now there can be that turning away and turning to the imbanetter when that trigger is noticed. And we can get into all the different ways in which the society causes the different aspects of frustration to come out. But really, that's kind of like not the most important thing here. The most important thing there is that the source of Seha, what causes the Seha, what causes the Shem to come into the personality, has been identified, the primary trigger. So it's like when dealing with society, which has these systems in time and space, and then it goes into those systems that really the hypocrisies type of aspects of society that really trigger that. So I don't think if I just switch here. Let me see what else I can do this page before we switch. So I have like from the document, I have entry number 14. The mystical issue is frustration being triggered. Okay, I will get to that in a minute. And so Sarak talks about what could be summed up as, I'm just trying to think of what I really need both screens to be able to show here. A mystical culture glorifying its lack of ethical conscience. That's something that really triggers this frustration. A society which has systems in time and space, which is the hypocrisy systems, the system which suggests spirituality, but instead they seek to stack power, riches, wealth, determined success, without regard for how that wealth or riches are attained. This is definitely, something that Seba has really talked about, like, all the malfeasance. I think, he has Seba probably remembers the name of the books that he has on, Death of American Empire, Mat, and something else where he talks about all the malfeasance of the society. So those are things that have been definitely been talked about. Plutocracy, government by the wealthy, a controlling class of the wealthy, triumphalism, boastful pride in the success or dominance of one's nation's group or culture. So those seems to be the biggest source of frustration. A spiritually materialistic, plutocratic, triumphalist culture, in one in which a language and symbols of spiritual life are employed to legitimize the accumulation of wealth, right? We know the pyramid, right, on the dollar bill and things like that. Wealth, power, and numerical dominance, while moral evaluation of the means of that accumulation is suspended in favor of its results. The institution presents itself as spiritually superior precisely because of its material success. In God we trust, conflating divine favor with worldly power. So that's definitely an issue in the culture, right? And that's definitely frustrating for a spiritual personality, to experience that. And at the same time, this one over here, all the way to the left, this blue box, it says G. G is, I think, relating it to like kind of the gap aspect. It's very good inquiry, very good reflection. The fact that a spiritual aspirant is able to recognize this in society and highlight it and point it out and say that system is on Ma'at, against Ma'at. It's in a mystical system. I use the term a mystical system that is on Ma'at. It's against righteousness and virtues. Excellent. That's what a spiritual aspirant is supposed to do. So excellent recognition. This goes to one's spiritual cultivation process to be able, because look how many people are caught up in that and they don't have that discernment. They are not able to see it for what it is. Some call it the American dream in this culture. I don't want to just limit to America, because this is like just a global phenomena in some ways too. But that one is able to recognize it. So I have frustration, highlighting, anmat, a mystical, yay, good job. To recognize this, that is the AMPU faculty. Now, with the AMPU faculty in this whole process, and with the stopgap, I use the acronym RUSR, right? RUSR. So that's the only difference I really want to emphasize with AMPU. AMPU is discernment, but that's why I like Sebama's recognition of the universal spiritual reality as ethical conscience, which he derived from the Amenable Pit teachings when he did them previously. And that's where the RUSR comes from, recognition of the universal spiritual reality as ethical conscience, because one has to take a step back and look at the big picture. And the big picture for a mystical aspirant is what? The big picture is there's a universal spiritual reality. It's not just a mad, crazy world with mad, crazy people doing mad, crazy things. That is frustrating. There is a universal spiritual reality that is the essence of it. And this is ignorance and egoism. And me and everyone else went through that, goes through that ignorance and egoism phase till we cultivate. Thankfully, I'm aware of it. I've been able to discern. Because you know what? This universal spiritual reality is also, that's me with a capital M. So I can move away from this non-virtuous way of life. And I can no longer let myself get trapped in this non-virtuous way of life. And then the idea is also not to become trapped by this phase of spiritual evolution where you are becoming aware of the difference. It's like the Sarjet posture holding the crook and the flail. Well, the nekaku, the flail, it separates the seed from the shaft. And now you're doing the separating. You're seeing like things that were okay or not okay anymore. And now the next step is not to let that now become a way to push you into the same thing you're trying to get out of. The Shem way of life, the egoism, the agitation, get agitated again by noticing somebody else's agitation. So, you don't want to be in the school of hard knocks anymore. That discernment is helping you to pull yourself out. So that's really, really a good thing. So we'll go to the slides. And again, here at the bottom, this conceptual framework based on the Assyrian resurrection, and a big part of this conceptual framework that has been identified by Sarah for himself is this having this seamless Ampu mind, this discerning mind to tell what's real from unreal, what's real from what's unreal, set disposition, Heru disposition, Shem way of being to Gur way of being. And I'd like to pull the recognition of the universal spiritual reality as part of that discernment, because it allows us to be able to look at the crazy world with people doing, unrighteous things, and to know that this is part of the evolution, the spiritual evolution of incarnated human beings. This is what everybody goes through. And we have to recognize that our personalities evolved to this level, but at some past point, we were those people. And sometimes maybe that's why we hate it so much, because we came out of it when we were in it, and we realized like, whoa, I didn't have to go through that for a lifetime. So there's like a little bit of frustration and bitterness, maybe even about that. But that all has to be let go of, because then one is getting back into Shem. So the Anpu discernment has to recognize that there's a universal spiritual reality that is separate from all of this, And that is me, and that is my nature as well. That's what part of the discernment. And that is developing the ethical conscience to actually be able to interface and integrate and be in the world, but not be of the world. So for what might be helpful, like as action steps to take, the part of the GER would be like using an ampu hakao, ampu imagery, uh, going into the shrine as ampu or as a sar. And ampu is part of the Asarian lineage, right? He is a sar's son, so you can still be a sar, but hold that ampu discernment as actually the virtue. That could be the virtue. Ampu, this ampu mind, this seamless ampu mind, that could be the nature of the virtue that one is striving for, right? We may call it equanimity, we may call it, by other names, but in terms of the conceptual framework for the personality, for what Sarah has identified as the conceptual framework. And it could be the seamless ampu mind. I'm looking time wise. So let's just go read a few of the submissions here. We'll read 19 and 14. And then we will maybe 14 is here again. My notes further down when he was talking about the Set and Nebuchadnezzar and the Tree of Life and the Asarian Resurrection and what a separate, it's like that seems to be a very strong framework, the Asarian Resurrection type framework. So just be very mindful of that and, see how you could determine a way to stop that seha that you've identified relative to the society ways it operates to stop that seha, that turning away from. And if anything, so it triggers, when you see that, it actually triggers you to the rusher, to the ampu discernment, the seamless ampu discernment. Instead of like when you see that, it brings out of that, because really that's what the negative opposite, if we didn't have the negative opposite, the negative the negative out there, we wouldn't know we wouldn't have anything to push us to cultivate the spiritual virtues within ourselves. So in a way, we should be saying, thank you, culture, for being so bad, for being so amystical, for being so spiritual virtueless, because it's like, makes me want to be better than that. So you develop your own trigger of becoming of going into attune into your soul essence, attune into your ampu nature. Every time that happens, it's like ampu, and you allow that to be your trigger to turn to your true deeper essence. Set egoistic quality of impulsivity. We talked about that. The urge that comes up to just like get it out, let it out, tell them off, whatever that RU wants to come out. And spiritual ignorance also was brought out here. This is known as spiritual ignorance or bondage to the world of time and space. So we have a slide for that, an entry for that. And I guess we'll leave this one for next time, the emotion of love I never had. Another framework there to really be embraced. Quality of devotion in all life, which is expressed. So what I would say is like the word there, all life, like that's that rusher again. So this is that love for all life. That's even for those who are doing the naughty things, even those who are short circuit in their virtues. even those who are operating out of the ignorance and egoism that plagues all humanity until they cultivate. That right there is a way to develop a way to approach people within those systems who are upholding those systems and can cause frustration as well. I don't think I put a one into here, but okay. So let me just read a couple quickly, and then we'll leave the rest for next Monday. So, how do I do this? Yeah. So the next class will be next Monday because I had some plans that I had to change. So I appreciate your. Okay, so we talked about that. Next week I'll go through this more. I kind of went through like some of that talking already. So the 9, I'm not sure why it's a little. So the reactive frustration we talked about, heated indignation, can create RU that arises specifically in these institutional encounters, can affect one's capacity to be flexible and engage different work environments with other co-souls on the path with their RU. And the negative RU is what really is troublesome of ourselves and of our others. So anger, heated temper, shamka. Does that someone else want to read it, or for time's sake, should I read it? It's a little blurry.
Where are we beginning from?
Probably just we're in the 9, and then the anger, heated, shamka, and then reading the 4 columns.
Oh, John. I'm sorry. I do not see where it says the 9. Am I not hearing you?
Here, it's a little blurry.
Number 9. Okay.
Maybe I should read it.
Me, now I have my glasses. Thank you, Dua.
Oh.
So 9, anger, heated temper, shem, ka, on the mental health page 35, 44, and 342. Precept 10, I have not become angry and cursed, damned, or wished others to hell. HT page 355. Precept 19, I have not been angry over objects, worldly things, which in the end are illusory and fleeting. HT page 357. Precept 25, I have not allowed myself to be consumed with the fire of irritation, anger, fury, or rage. HT page 359. Ma'at teaching number 13, category, balance of mind / right thinking. HT page 352. Equanimity, serene mind, lagur, sajur. MH page 38 through 40, 75, 371. I cultivate Gur, the serene, balanced, and relaxed quality of mind that is the natural state of consciousness aligned with its divine source. I am not compelled by the storms of REU. I witness their arising with the steady awareness of one who knows the divine.
That's how. I think we'll leave it there. We'll I'm going to go through. We'll end with like a little bit of a reflective meditation on this ampu quality. Maybe we'll do this one. So the Ampu faculty of discernment, visualizing. So this is going to be part of the visualization. We'll visualize Asar in the shrine within the heart, within the Ab, as the Ab Netter, the divinity of the heart, with the fragrance or being surrounded by his secum, his powers, the fragrance of his personality, emanating all the virtuous qualities. And the one we're going to focus on is the one of Ampu, seamless discernment, holding the crook and the flail. The precept reflection will be, I have not stopped myself from listening and following the words of wisdom, righteousness, order, and truth, keeping myself willfully ignorant or discounting things I find inconvenient. My practical application of this is my participation in Kunum Nefer, and I engage Antet Bigag, repeated persistent effort, and Anken, ongoing. There's a little something that occurred there, not off and on, Anken, ongoing, and not off and on practice of Shedi. So it's an affirmation that I am cultivating this discernment in my personality that comes from my soul awareness, because I engage in those processes that help me to cultivate this discernment. I live by the precepts. I listen to the teachings. I don't keep myself ignorant of the teachings of who I am, of what the world is, what truth, what not is not truth. And then also I am practicing my Shemsu Uja. I attend, Kunum Nefer, good association. I engage in the Antet Begab, which is the repeated persistent effort of my Shedi, and the Anken. I do it ongoing. I don't stop it and then start it and then stop it. So therefore, I can have faith in myself. I can have faith in my ability to accept the truth. I can have faith in my ability to act with wisdom. I can have faith in my mistress's ability to lead me along the path of truth. All the sages that have paved the way. I affirm my ethical conscience as I recognize the universal spiritual reality that is my reality. I trust in the teachings of the sages. The teachings of the sage Amenemopet empowers and sustain my practice. So these are some of the reflections we can engage in. Open the shrine and then enter. I open myself with the reverence and confidence to the words of wisdom. I allow these teachings to penetrate below the surface of my conscious mind into the Ab, where they ignite the vital life fire, the Uja of transformation. Sitting with our spine straight, looking at the image of Ampu, the faculty of discernment, to become sensitive to when the personality is turning away from the imbanetter, the immanent presence of Asar, whose very sun is the faculty of discernment. Closing your eyes and going into opening the door to the shrine of the heart. Wearing is Asar. You are Asar, so you sit in the throne of Asar. and you recognize within yourself this discernment. Developing the sensitivity to recognize when the personality is being triggered into Seha. And immediately turning to the Imbanetter and Ampu discernment. Recognizing the bigger picture of life, the universal spiritual reality, the essence of all. And bring forth Ampu's mother into this awareness too, this sense. Nebahet can be there as well. Devotional love for all. Mer, allowing oneself to bask in the Mer, expressing from your Sar nature, seeping out through the shrine into the universe. It's Nebahet love and Ampu discernment. Personality becoming established and allowing it to flow through the personality. Taking a deep breath. Exhale. Gently opening one's eyes and keeping that Anpu discernment, and feel that it's just emanating and flowing through the personality unobstructed. Coming from the soul within the heart, within the shrine. And allow it to continue to flow through the personality unobstructedly as a cultivated quality of soul nature. Om a tap a tap a tap a tap. A tap. So we'll conclude here. So next Monday, I probably will strive to just pick it up right where we left off. So, and then complete it. That will be the goal. Any questions before we close it out? Aspirant Sarah, any questions from you or any comments or any?
Santi.
We didn't complete it today, but
Peace and blessings.
that's it. I will play some music, mod music, for anybody who wants to stay on and listen to it to close it out. That's how. Do a peace and blessings. Peace and blessings, everyone. Buhatap.